episode 3 of the Made by Mumino podcast. My name is Catherine and you can find me obviously here on YouTube as Made by Mumino, on Instagram as Mumino, and over on Ravelry as Mumino as well. So yeah, this, as you will have seen from the titles, is a knitting podcast, and where I talk about all things knitting and yarny, although not crochet, sadly. I can't crochet. I've tried. My mum has tried to show me, other people have tried to show me. For some reason, I just can't get how to crochet into my head, and I don't know why. I will try again. If anybody has a recommendation for a tutorial video, please do feel free to say in the comments below, because yeah, I feel like it's something I'm lacking. Yeah, as you will have seen from the titles, there was a little bit of a plane takeoff and landing from Dusseldorf, landing in Copenhagen, because my partner and I were lucky enough to go on a little trip around Scandinavia last week. So we only went to 3 of the Scandinavian countries. We went to Denmark, Sweden and Oslo. We didn't make it to Iceland, Finland or the Faroe Islands this time. Maybe next time. I'd love to go to Iceland and Finland. Really would. Really would. Yeah, anyway, focus. So yeah, we only had a week and we were organising it ourselves and organising the train trips and transfers and so on between the different cities. So it was a bit much to do more than 3 cities. So yeah, we had an absolutely fantastic time. And I'm going to talk you through all of the fantastic yarn that I bought, almost 1.5 kilos of yarn. Considering I only had hand luggage, it's not too bad. Yeah. So I'll talk you through the yarn, some of the yarn shops that we visited, and what I'm going to do with it. Yeah, so first of all, let's talk about what I'm wearing today. This is the Morrow sweater by Isabel Clark. She's on Instagram as 100 Acre Wool, I believe. I'll link her below. And it's an absolutely lovely pattern. I test knit this for her over Christmas, which was challenging because it's made with Newton with Ito. I held it with Ito, although the pattern says only to use a single strand of Newton. I wanted to hold it with some mohair for a bit extra warmth, and I try to do that over Christmas, bearing in mind it's the busiest time for me because I'm trying to see as many members of my family as possible. I tend to go back to the UK with my partner for the Christmas holidays, and trying to do stranded colour work using unspun yarn and doing colour management sometimes for 3 different colours in one row. Yeah, it didn't really happen. So most of it was frantically knit after I came back in January before the deadline for the test knit, but I made it and I'm really happy with it. I'll put a picture up here of me wearing it, but it's a gorgeous sweater, really easy pattern to follow. You shouldn't be daunted by the colour work. I think it would work very well in a kind of a DK to worsted weight yarn as well, if you didn't want to do it with unspun. But it's a really gorgeous pattern, and I do recommend it. And but I think I made it slightly too big. I think I would go down a size next time. But it's very comfortable and definitely lovely and warm for in the winter. So yeah, very happy with it. So that's what I'm wearing. I do have one finished object here somewhere. Where is it? Here we go. Last time I was knitting a pair of socks and the socks are finished. So I won't go into too much detail because they're just a pair of vanilla socks. And yeah, nothing more to say really. They're made with Jawoll superwash sock yarn, and yeah, very happy with it. Nothing more to say really. If you want more detail about the yarn and so on, have a look at my last episode because I talk about it in some depth then. So yeah, that's my only finished object this week. I do have several whips. The first of which is another pair of socks, very boring. What did I do with them? So as I mentioned before, I always have a pair of socks in my handbag. for knitting on trains, planes and automobiles. This is another pair of vanilla socks, although I've done a 2x2 rib just for something a bit different, and I knit these when we were on our trip. And this is made with alpaca sock yarn from Lang Yarns, and it's just an easy wash 4-ply with a colour number rather than a name, which I'll put down below. But it's a really, really nice yarn to knit with. I've actually knit a whole jumper in this. I held it with something else. It's very, very soft. That's the label there. But it comes in 100 gram balls of 390 meters each, and it knits up really nicely. 70% alpaca, 30% nylon, and I've knit a couple of pairs of socks using this yarn, and they wear really nicely, and they're quite fine, so good for wearing under sort of more dressy boots, my Chelsea boots and things, so I tend to wear it with that. But yeah, so I was knitting on those a little bit on the plane. But I also cast on a shawl to take with me. This one's going to be a bit difficult to show you, I think. This is the Dotted Rays shawl from West Knits. And I'm halfway through a short row, so it's a bit difficult to show you. But it's going to come out as an asymmetric crescent. So you start off on one corner. Let me show you here. Yeah, that's better. You start off on one corner, and then with short rows and yarn overs gradually build a shawl from that point, and you just end up with a really, really nice, simple, but I think it's quite interesting, quite elegant design. I'll show it to you properly when I finish that. It's a bit difficult to show you on the needles. Oh God, did I put my, yes I did. Oh God. Even needle stoppers. I thought one of the needle stoppers had fallen off, and I was about to have a little heart attack because picking up and trying to repair garter stitches is just horrible. But yeah, it's fine. So I'm knitting this with Bird Street yarn, sock yarn, and I think it's a BFL, yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's a BFL 7525 sock yarn. 425 meters for 100 grams, so a bit skinnier than the last one. And this colorway is called Merlin, which I think is for the bird, because it has this, I show it to you a bit better. It's a really lovely speckled look with occasional little drops of blue and yellow and pink and all sorts of little speckles in there. So very pretty. Yeah, I want to have that finished by the time I go to Jawoll in April. Because I think it'll be perfect to wear then, and also I think Bird Street Yarns is going to be there, so why do we do this? We do a little show and tell, look what I made, like I bought things from you and I made things with them, look at me. So yeah, I took that with me, and that was perfect to knit on the train journeys, because we had about 10 hours, 11 hours on the train altogether, and to start off with, watching frozen lakes and forests go by is really interesting, but you do need something to kind of occupy your mind a little bit, because it's a long time to spend sitting down. So yeah, that's that. Now the other work in progress I've got, you've already seen. I didn't take it with me because it was a bit too difficult, because it's mosaic work. But it is coming on nicely. I knit on it a little bit this weekend after we got back. It's the Botanic shawl, again from Stephen West Knits. And I'll put all the yarn details below, but I've already talked about it in my last two podcasts, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's a really nice gradient yarn from Scheepjes, and held with, again, Jawoll sock yarn as the main colour. So that's that. So the trip, we had a fantastic time, and I bought lots of yarn, as I said. Yeah, I'm impressed that we managed to get it all back, if I'm honest, especially as I took several 100 grams of yarn with me as well for various projects. So yeah, I'm just going to insert a little bit of footage here of Copenhagen. Copenhagen is a coastal city with a population of about 660,000, so not massive but not small either. This is an area called Nijhaven, which is, if you Google Copenhagen, probably the first thing that will come up. It's a very pretty, picturesque little harbour area right next to the main shopping area, the main inner city area, where there's lots of department stores and lots and lots and lots of coffee shops. So, which was very important for me doing this filming at about 7 o'clock in the morning. And there's just beautiful views over the harbour. This is right next to where our hotel was. And it's a really nice picturesque area to go and walk around. So while we were there, we went to one yarn shop. The link is down in the description. And they were absolutely wonderful. They were incredibly welcoming, more than happy for me to film around the shop and to check out everything that they had there. They had a fantastic selection of everything you'd expect, sort of big box yarns and Danish brands, but also some other indie dyes. I think they had some hedgehog fibres there. Yep, there we go, hedgehog fibres, and a very, very nice selection of notions, needles. And here is some of the more local Danish yarn, and this is what I ended up choosing. So as you can see, Copenhagen's a beautiful city. We had a really nice time there. It's definitely worth visiting, and I'll definitely go back there again and explore Denmark a little bit more too. But yeah, we went to one yarn shop while we were there. I think you pronounce it, as I said in the video, Sommerfuglen. I have a tendency to use German pronunciation when I'm speaking other languages now, which isn't always correct. And somebody very kindly corrected my pronunciation for something in the last video. I thank you so much for that. And if you have any tips and comments on pronunciation in this episode, please feel free to comment. So yeah, when we were in Sommerfuglen, I bought 300 grams of yarn with the intention of making another Stockholm slipover, because I've already made 2 and I absolutely love them. In fact, I wore one in Stockholm. Here's my footage here, or a picture of me wearing it here, because why not? You have to, don't you, when in Stockholm? But yeah, I bought 300 grams of this gorgeous olive colour DK yarn. It's absolutely beautiful. So this is from a company called Jawoll. Sorry. The lovely people in the shop did tell me how to pronounce it, and it's completely gone out of my mind. I'm so sorry. I think it's Jawoll, Uldspinderij, which it's just gorgeous. It's a Danish yarn. It's made in Denmark, so spun in Denmark, although there is a mixture of Falklands and Gotland and all sorts of things in there, I think. But it's 200 grams for 100 meters, so a proper DK, and I'll be making another Stockholm slipover with that. This feels soft. I think this feels soft to me, and I could definitely wear this next to my skin. Yeah, definitely. But the shop was, there was so much in there that I wanted everything in there. As you saw from the little video, they had so many different brands in there, and yeah, I could have filled a suitcase just from there. But yeah, this is what I bought in Copenhagen. There are other yarn shops there as well, but we were only in each city for about a day and a half. So we didn't really have time to go to all of them. And I picked the one that was kind of on the route from where we were staying, the hotel that we were staying in, to the central train station where we were then taking a train to Sweden. So I'm going to put in some footage now of our trip to Sweden. So this is Copenhagen Central Station, which had plenty of restaurants and things to do while we were waiting for our train to Stockholm. And yeah, smooth sailing, as it were. Lots of interesting scenery whilst we were on our way, plus me tinking back on a pair of socks. Pine forests, lakes, All still looks very wintry though at this time of year in that part of the world. But we were very blessed with the weather, and it was blue skies and not too windy when we got to Stockholm. So Stockholm consists of about 14 different islands that make up the city, and we were staying in the old town part of the city, and this is just outside our hotel and overlooking the bay. There's a population of about 1 million people altogether in the city, but we mainly stayed in this, really picturesque cobbled streets, old town area. It was just so lovely and so nice to wander around. There's a Nobel Prize museum, lots of little cute cafes, and also the Royal Palace. And we saw some soldiers or a marching band lining up outside to do something at one point. But as you can see, we were so lucky with the weather. It was absolutely beautiful. And we spent the whole day walking around outside. But we did manage to make it to one yarn shop. So in the Old Town area, there's a yarn shop called Makery 14, and we had a little mooch around there. So, my goodness, how gorgeous is the Old Town in Stockholm? It's just beautiful there, absolutely lovely. We just stuck to that area, to be honest, because there was just so much to see and so many lovely little shops and cute little cafes, and it was just really lovely there to just mooch around and take in what was going on around us. And it was quite quiet as well, if I'm honest, for that, I suppose, because technically it's still the winter and it was cold. All the places we went to, it was fairly cold. I think it got down below 0 in all of the cities that we were in, and the wind in Copenhagen in particular was pretty chilly, pretty nippy. We had to make an impromptu stop to go and buy some base layer garments for my partner when we were in Copenhagen, because he just didn't bring enough warm clothing with him, bless him. So yeah, his souvenir was base layer stuff and some Lego, but yeah, base layer stuff. But yeah, when we were in Stockholm, we pretty much stuck to that area, and in that part of Stockholm there's not really that many yarn shops. There are other yarn shops in other regions, but we, as you saw from the video, just went to Makery 14, which was enough in itself. It was delightful. The owner of the shop was really friendly and chatty, and we were talking about patterns and discussing different sorts of yarn that they have for sale, and different things that are coming up. And yeah, it was really difficult, again, very difficult to choose some yarn. But I settled on some tuku wool. So this is a sock yarn, so a 4-ply. It's actually Finnish. But I bought it in Stockholm, so it's fine. This is a Finnish yarn, and it's 320 meters per 100 grams, and it just says 80% Finnish wool, so it could be anything. And 20%, excuse me, biodegradable polyamide. So yeah, it feels really nice. Again, it feels kind of similar to the sort of John Arbon type sock yarns. That kind of feel to it. It feels as if it's going to wear really nicely, and I'm looking forward to making a nice pair of socks with that. I'll probably be able to squeeze 2 pairs of socks out of it if I do a little contrast heel and toe or a contrast cuff or something. So yeah, that's what I bought there, and then I couldn't resist. Next to the counter, the owner of the shop had a little drawer box full of stitch markers, so I treated myself. I've linked the shop below, but I believe these come from Richmond, BC, so I think British Columbia, and they're so cute. There are, I think, 8 little tiny, oh, you can't really see it. Oh, I'll put that down a sec. Oh, you get the idea. Little tiny tiny balls of yarn. They're so cute. They're gorgeous. They're not heavy. They look like they're made of brass, I think. And they're just really cute, and they come, all of them are in different colours. And yeah, they're from Firefly Notes. So cute, really happy with those. Of course, I always forget, you don't just need to buy yarn, you can buy yarn jewellery as well. Things to adorn your knitting whilst you're making, just to, you know, why not? So yeah, purchases from Sweden. Just one little ball of yarn. I was very, one little skein. I think I was very restrained personally, but yeah, lovely stitch markers. So that was our trip to Sweden, well, not to Sweden, to Stockholm. And then we hopped on another train and went to Oslo, and I'll put some footage in now of our trip. So we arrived at Stockholm Central train station and then made our way to Oslo in Norway. And it was pretty overcast and cold on that day, but I was looking forward to another 5 or so hours of knitting ahead of me, and looking at the lovely countryside as we went through. So yeah, it was a long journey though. It did feel like a long time, this one. I think our train might have been a little bit delayed along the way. So more beautiful scenery of waterways and rivers between the islands and on the mainland, and as we went along, the amount of snow that we could see definitely started to increase. Yeah, so you can see it's getting colder as we go further towards Norway, and until we saw some enormous frozen lakes and frozen rivers and things, and yeah, it was I imagine it was quite cold outside. But the scenery was very, very beautiful as we went along, and I did enjoy it. So yeah, more snow, more ice, and it went on for a long time. But then we eventually arrived in Oslo, and the train station there is another fantastic train station with lots of places to eat and hang out. It was a bit rainy and damp when we first arrived, but we got straight into an Uber and went to our hotel, and then the next day we were lucky again with beautiful sunshine. So this is the main city area where all of the main shopping districts are, and I had plans to go to one yarn shop initially, and that was in a department store. As you can see, they sell a lot of local Norwegian products here. Lots of traditional clothing, traditional textiles, and for some reason I'm waving my hand around in front of the camera. Not sure why, sorry about that. But yes, the yarn is hidden at the back, and my goodness, was there a selection of lots of different types of Norwegian yarn of all different weights, colours, varieties, but I'd done my research and I knew exactly what I wanted. I was after some Hillersvåg, and I found exactly what I was after. I just wish I spoke Norwegian, because they had a really, really good selection of patterns and pattern books there as well. But obviously they're not really much use to me because I don't speak Norwegian, sadly. But yeah, we were spoilt for choice. And as you can see, there was also lots of notions and needles and all the accoutrements for making there too. So my partner picked out some yarn, and then we spontaneously decided to do a little cruise around the inner fjord. So this is the harbour area where there's the Opera House and the Munch Museum, and yeah, we decided to jump on a little cruise boat and take a little trip around the harbour because the weather was just so beautiful that day. We couldn't resist, and it was definitely well worth it, although it was a bit chilly out in the wind. But the sunshine did help. But as you can see, a beautiful day. But then I found another yarn shop that I wasn't expecting, called Frukvist, I think is how you pronounce it, and they had a marvellous selection too. So yes, more yarn was bought. So that was our little trip to Oslo and our little mooch around, and you will have seen 2 yarn shops in there. Also that there was significantly more snow in the landscape the further we went towards Oslo. The scenery was stunning. It was frozen lake after frozen lake with mountains and it was just, and forests and so on. It was beautiful. I apologise for the quality of some of the filming. Obviously we were filming through windows, which weren't always the cleanest. We did our best. There was a lot more footage, but I discarded most of it because it just wasn't good enough. But yeah, as you will have seen from the footage, we went to 2 yarn shops, although we were spoiled for choice. But by that point, I was afraid to go to too many yarn shops in case I bought too much and we couldn't take it back with us. Sorry, apologies for that. Someone just came to the door and delivered some goodies. Not yarn related, makeup related. But yeah, so I'm back. Right, I think I was talking about the yarn shops that we went to in Oslo. We were spoiled for choice, and yes, that's what I said. I was afraid to go to too many in case I bought too much. So I distracted myself by taking a beautiful little trip around the harbour and up in the inland fjord there. So yeah, that used a couple of hours, which I wasn't then able to use for yarn shopping, which was not a bad thing. But yeah, so we went to 2 yarn shops. The first was, as I said in the video, a kind of a Norwegian specialty store. I think Arnie and Carlos did a little tour around one of their shops as well. But they sell ready-made jumpers, ready-made traditional clothing, handicrafts, that kind of thing. But they also sell lots of Norwegian yarn as well. And I really wanted to buy some yarn to make my partner a Norwegian or Norwegian style jumper. And yeah, so we chose some. I got 600 grams, it keeps coming, of this gorgeousness. How lovely is that? It's a beautiful grey blue colour. Oh, from Hillesvåg. Absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to use this to make the Celeste sweater, the men's version from Petite Knit, I think. I'll put a picture up here. And I seem to remember it requires the main colour plus 4 contrast colours. And to try and cut down on the amount of yarn that we were bringing back so it would fit in the suitcase, I picked out the palette, or I got my partner to pick out the palette that he wanted, and then thought about what I already had in my stash that I could substitute this yarn for, because it's gorgeous. It's 100% Norwegian wool. It's made of Norsk Pelsol and Gotland. And it's 100 grams is 200 meters. So again, good standard DK. And it looks like a 2-ply, I think. But yeah, so we got 600 grams of that, which is in this lovely sort of blue-grey colour. And he picked out some other colours as well. The only one that I didn't have in stash was this. It's called yellow, which I think, gull, which I think is Norwegian for yellow. The only one I didn't have in stash was this kind of colour. I do have other greens and a sort of yellowy greens in stash, but not that particular colour that he really liked. So I got that. And when I cast it on, I'll show you the other colours that I'm going to be holding with that for the colour work on the Celeste. But yeah, that's what I picked up from there. Also, top tip, if you're staying in Oslo, several of the hotels offer a 10% discount code for the shop that we bought this in. So double check with the hotel that because they'll be able to give you a little voucher that you can take with you if you're staying in Oslo. So yeah, that's that. I think that this yarn is the softest, the Hillesvåg. I think this is definitely the softest. My partner normally goes for, as I've mentioned in the previous episodes, they go together really nicely as well. My partner normally goes for sort of superwash feeling yarns. He likes the softer ones. But when we were away, he took 2 jumpers with him. One was an alpaca jumper that I made for him, and the other one was a British wool woolly knit yarn to cone that I made for him. And he definitely found the woolly knit warmer, that kind of really rustic, not dissimilar to this kind of yarn feel to it. So I think he has a new appreciation of the benefits of wearing a jumper made of more rustic yarn. So yeah, I said, do you feel this, expecting that he would probably go for like Sandler's Garn or something like that, which they also had for sale there. But no, he went for this, thought it was perfect. So yeah, it's a lot of yarn so far, but it hasn't finished. So the second yarn shop that we went to, we just happened upon, it was called Fru Kvist, which I think means Mrs. Kvist, I think. I probably said it in the video as well. Oh my goodness, they had an amazing selection there, and I was able to touch and squish yarns that I've never seen in real life before, like Cardiff Cashmere and some, what were the other ones that they had in there? It was in the video. But also they had some Filcolana there, which again is not really something I've come across before in this part of the world, and I just wanted to give it a go. So I bought myself a little sock set, and excuse the rustling, there's a piece of paper in here. So the set came with 150 grams. Oh, try holding that the right way up. 2 of the main colour and 1 of this contrast colour, and it's Filcolana Arvetta, I believe, not Arvetta. And this is 80% virgin wool and 20% nylon, and it's 210 meters per 50 grams. So yeah, a proper fingering weight yarn. And this came with a really nice little pattern as well. And to be honest, it was the pattern that attracted me just as much as the yarn. These gorgeous colourwork socks. I'll have a look and see if it's available as a single download on Ravelry. The pattern is in Norwegian, but it's a chart, so I think I should be able to work it out. As long as I can work out how many repeats there are, I think we should be good. But yeah, so I'll be making those. I might save them for next autumn and make them as a kind of a winter cast on. I don't know, maybe I'll do that. So yeah, making those in these colours. But it was a treasure trove in there. They had so many notions and gorgeous little stitch markers, a full collection of different types of needles, from Chowgoos to Knit Pros and everything in between. And also some more unusual yarns that I hadn't seen before, ones that looked hand spun and they were sort of made by small producers. That I forgot to take a picture of it. I'll have a look back through my photographs, and if I did take one, I'll put a picture up here for you, but I don't think I did. But yeah, they also had a really nice selection of buttons, so I picked up some buttons as well for a future project, which I now cannot find. They're just ordinary little buttons. Oh, goodness knows where they are. They're around here somewhere. The place is covered in yarn. Ah, there they are. So just some cute little wooden buttons. 6 of them for a cardigan sometime. I'm sure something will occur to me to put those on. So yeah, what to say about Scandinavian yarn shopping? Take empty luggage, definitely. The yarn is plentiful. There are loads of different shops you can go to. Just do a bit of research and just walk around the streets, because many places sell yarn that aren't, strictly speaking, yarn shops. I mean, you could even buy it in the airport in Oslo. There was a shop selling a small amount of yarn there as well. So it really is everywhere. So do a little bit of research into some yarn brands that maybe you'd like to try and that you're interested in, and see what you can find, and yeah, just wander around and have a look. But the only downside is I am not the best at doing mental maths in my head when it comes to currency conversions that are anything more complicated. And honestly, I had no idea what I was spending until I then looked at my bank statement to see how much each transaction converted to in euros. My partner was very helpful, and he did have his a little app open on his phone to tell me how much things were. But yeah, it can be a bit tricky sometimes when you're dealing with lots of different currencies. Also, on that note, we didn't use cash once. We didn't get out any cash at all. Everywhere took cards. You know, obviously Ubers and public transport did, but yeah, you can pay by card everywhere. So, which, you know, living in Germany is, you can't always pay by card. I think it's better since after COVID. But yeah, before COVID, you couldn't pay by card in bakeries and things like that here in Germany. But I think the majority of places you can these days. But yeah, we didn't have to take out any cash at all. So there we go. That was our little trip. We had a wonderful time. It was fairly cold, so wrap up warm if you're going this time of year. And if anybody's interested in the hotels that we stayed in or any of the restaurants that we ate in, please message me. I just didn't think you would be that interested in those things. I ate fish every day and I loved it. It was wonderful. Really, really had a wonderful time, and I definitely want to go back to all of the countries that we visited and explore beyond as well. So before I wrap up today, future knitting plans. You may remember in the last episode I am doing a test knit for John Arbon, a Marie Wallen cowl for them, and the yarn arrived just before we went on our trip, but I'll talk about that after I've cast it on in the next episode. What else? I'm also going to be doing a sewing project. There is a magazine called Tauko that's a sustainable sewing magazine. I believe they're based in Finland. And I've done a couple of make and shares for them in the past, where you get a preview of the patterns. They send you which pattern you would like to, they show you the previews of all of the patterns. You then choose which one you'd like to do, and they send you the PDFs for that pattern. And yeah, so I'm going to be doing that again. And I've chosen a really cute blouse that I think I'll probably convert into a shirt dress. I think I'm allowed to share previews or sneak peeks from about the 28th of March. So if anyone's interested and does a bit of sewing as well, I can share a little bit of that probably in the next episode too. But I need to think about fabric and have a look at my stash and see if I can pull something out of there, maybe some linen. Anyway, I digress. So knitting plans. Yes, the John Arbon test knits, the Marie Wallen pattern. And also I feel like I need another cardigan. I've got some really, what colour would you describe it as? A lovely kind of cinnamony colour yarn cones from Woolly Knit. And I feel like I want to make a cardigan out of them. And I have a few ideas, but yes, I will talk about that more in my next episode as well, I think. So that is it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. I apologise if the travel aspects aren't really your thing. We'll be going back to normal episodes from next time. And yeah, I'd love to know what you're knitting on at the moment, or if you've been to any of the countries that I went to as well, and what your experience was. And yeah, also any ideas for maybe a special sock pattern for my tuku wool would be really great. I'd be really grateful for as well. So looking at the yarn now, I've definitely got a colour palette. I've definitely got there's a theme. There's a definite theme. Kind of earthy tones, I'd say. Yeah, it's a definite theme. I'm pretty happy with that. Let me know what you think in the comments. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next couple of weeks. Take care. Bye.